Welcome to the Odds Breakers, your number one place for shared, sharp betting information.
Hell no, to the no, no, no. Hell to the no, hell to the no, to the no, no, no. Hell no, no, to the no, no. Hell to the no, no, to the no, 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 no. Hell to the no, no, to the no, no.
Hail to the no, my friends, and welcome back to podcast 30 of 2026. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neil. You can follow me on X at OBKiev. Follow us at The Oddsbreakers. Follow us on social media / The Oddsbreakers. This episode is being brought to you by FanDuel Sports, a proud partner with March Madness and the NCAA. If you support The Oddsbreakers and benefit from our premium plays, please visit theoddsbreakers.com. Click shop and become a member. Pick any for winning cappers to get the premium plays before the line moves. You can also support us on patreon.com if nothing else. Please visit the Oddsbreakers and become a free Picks and Telegram subscriber. Well, we are back, my friends, and I am shocked. UConn wins that game at the last second. Obviously, I don't want to go backwards here in our recap, but that was just absolutely unreal. Absolutely unreal. Great weekend of college basketball. It was kind of medium for me. Could have been a little bit better if the ending of that game I just mentioned went differently. But at the same time, here we are making plays, having a wonderful March Madness here at the Odds Breakers. Baseball starting out great. It's going to be a fun summer, and lots of changes going on in all kinds of sports, including the NFL, with already starting to hire replacement refs. Now, you know me. I'm no big fan of the way the refs are and the way the refs are treated by the league. I believe that there needs to be further accountability and further officiating from our angles. But either way, if the case is that they're actually going to implement a larger eye in the sky type ref and hire new refs, I am all for that. I am all for that because they are now going to monitor it more from New York, meaning that they're going to change more calls, which they should have been doing all year last year anyway. You know, you always see these memes of that Packer game where one guy puts up a safety, one guy puts his hands up as a touchdown. And they blame that on the replacement refs, but you're not seeing too many when the Saints had that pass interference non-call on them when the Rams hit them, and it literally changed the outcome of who was going to the Super Bowl. You don't see too much of that, do you? So we'll see what happens with that. That's got a lot of time to develop yet, but we're already starting NFL and college football. Now it's Final Four week. Not too many games to cap. Now the Crown basketball tournament is starting. The tough thing about this tournament, there's 8 teams, and they're all Power 5 teams, Power 4, Power 5. I call the Big East a power conference for sure when it comes to basketball. The problem is that these teams haven't played for almost a month. You know, they haven't played since their conference tournaments. Maybe just one game. And now they're a little rusty maybe from a defensive side of the ball. I don't want to take any unders in this because of that. I don't know who's going to show up. You know, I assume you're going to see some motivation. But at the same time, these are a lot more hard to judge than these final 2 games in the NIT with Illinois State and Auburn and New Mexico versus Tulsa. I'm already eyeing up one premium play here, and I may be releasing that today or tomorrow. But not a lot to talk about in these small tournaments, unfortunately. Starting with a recap, I tried for a middle on the total on this Arkansas-Arizona game in the Final Four, and wow, that didn't even sniff the under. It was run, and run some more. Arkansas was dead in the water. They were running and not playing defense. It looked like there wasn't even a coach there. I know Calipari was there, and yelled at the officials a few times, yelled at his team a few times. But like you would see like wide open Arizona guys just dunking, just sitting under the rim. Or just slightly moving under the rim with nobody else following them. It's like, yeah, keep running, Arkansas. But it's really not going to do anything unless you play just a little bit of defense. You know, that was kind of embarrassing, but it was a very typical Calipari, where the team's got the talent to smoke teams. You know, like I guess they didn't smoke High Point, right? 94-88, Hawaii, let's just say, but just not even close to sniffing. Playing against greatness. Illinois Houston was amazing. That I had Illinois in that game, and it wasn't really, you didn't sweat the plus 3.5 at all. It went down to plus 2.5 before it closed. If you got plus 2.5, you still won. But I just thought Illinois, better offense, and actually when they turned it up, they become the better defense. And somehow Illinois, their defense has been so dang good in this tournament that their unders have been just hitting. And unfortunately, I was on one of their last overs, but that's how it is. Iowa, Nebraska started out bad for me. I thought Nebraska was the better team. I thought Nebraska was going to win this game. Iowa played really good pressure defense. They also played very well in the perimeter. They got off ball screens wonderfully, and that stopped Nebraska's three-point shot. And Nebraska's three-point defense is supposed to be number 4 in the nation. And places, like the efficiency sites, Haslametrics, Ken Pom and all that, they couldn't stop Iowa's three-point shot, especially when Iowa's bigs were shooting. I found that interesting. On Ken Pom, they're now down to 20th in opponent three-point percentage, but that was better before this game. But you got to give Iowa a lot of props for how far they made it. Texas, Purdue. I was on Purdue, and that was a tough day for me because Purdue could not separate themselves from Texas. And it was a weird game because they started 20 minutes before Iowa versus Nebraska, but you saw all the whistles in the Texas-Purdue game. Everywhere you looked, there was a foul. And then they were swallowing their whistles more in the Nebraska-Iowa game. They were just playing very efficient basketball. That's why it went over the total. And the Iowa-Nebraska game finished before the Purdue-Texas game. There was 35 free throws in the Purdue-Texas game because of all the stoppages and all the fouls. And free throws for Nebraska versus Iowa was 23. It would have been less than that if Nebraska wasn't fouling at the end, obviously, as well. But two just different games, a lot more stoppages in the Texas game. And that's why it finished later, Just two different philosophies in some of these crews, and that throws things off. It makes it hard to handicap, even from a totals perspective, But I do give Texas a ton of credit. They hung in. Sean Miller kind of proved that, hey, man, I'm a big-time coach. I'm a tournament coach. He proved that. So I do give Texas a lot of credit for hanging in with Purdue. Come Friday, Duke St. John's. St. John's covered. Hit a nice little beer bet banger at plus 600 with St. John's winning out and Illinois winning out. Or St. John's winning the first half out 49-39. Thank God he hit that three. That helped me. And that was fun. But what didn't happen is Duke, I didn't get a fair whistle. I thought that St. John's was the better team. Duke ended up with 24 free throws. St. John's ended up with 8. But there was a big discrepancy before St. John's had to start fouling to try to stay in that game. St. John's is a team that shoots a lot of free throws because they bang inside. As a matter of fact, they ranked 20th in free throw attempts per game. But when you play Duke, I guess things change. Let's move on to the next game. Michigan, Alabama. I was really close to both hitting the under, which we took under 176.5, gave it out as 174.5 as a free play, and the plus 10.5 on Alabama. But that 3 at the end didn't make it to in garbage time, so I lost that Plinko chip. But that was a fun game. Just Alabama started out pretty fierce, but you can just tell that Michigan is just better all around team. I will give Alabama a ton of credit and Nate Oates that they did well getting as far as they did into the Sweet 16. But unfortunately, they ran into one of the top 2 teams in the nation. That's going to happen. And Michigan was just better at not turning the ball over that day. What are the turnovers here in this game? 5 steals for Alabama, 4 steals for Michigan. Michigan sometimes will be sloppy with the ball, and it's kind of like in my handicap, but they were able to shoot 50% from the field while Alabama shot 36.2%. Alabama from 3 was 29.8%. A little bit different than that Texas Tech game. Michigan, 48.1% from 3. The rebounds went to Michigan by a lot as well. You wonder actually how Alabama stayed in that game to make it that close, looking at these numbers. But at the same time, Alabama shot like almost double their threes, 47 threes to 27. That's a lot. What was weird is Michigan only went 11 for 20 from free throws, and Alabama only shot 14 free throws, but they hit 13. That's interesting. Michigan 8 blocks, 1 for Alabama. The SEC is once again not in the top 4. Michigan State versus Connecticut. I had UConn money line. I was a little bit biting my nails on this one. I believe that St. John's is the better team in the Big East this year anyway. Pitino. But, here we are with UConn in the Final Four, and we'll get to that. But that was a weird game. I thought that the officiating was okay that game. But the problem with Michigan State is they choked. And like I said in the handicap, I do not like their rim and 3 rate being so low. Shooting mid-range shots is not what's going to win the game for you at the end of the game. And that's what they just looked a little discombobulated and disoriented. I believe that they got outcoached by Dan Hurley a little bit. But stat-wise, these teams were very, very close to equal. But I needed UConn in that game. That was my biggest play probably. In Tennessee versus Iowa State. Didn't touch it. Said I lean Tennessee. Iowa State could not hit the broadside of a freaking barn. They were awful. And maybe the Joshua Jefferson injury finally caught up to him. But it was just one of those bad Lipsy games. 5 for 23 from 3. 21.7%. 21 for 54 from the field at 38.9%. If you're not hitting threes, you got to hit one of them. And Tennessee shot 50.8% from the field. Iowa State had 10 more free throws, too. The rebounding went nuts to Tennessee. 42-18. That's where they lost. Not having Jefferson. 6'9". You have an off shooting day, that's what you're going to look like. So that's why Tennessee was the correct side. I'm glad I stayed off Iowa State. And too bad that their guy got injured. Moving to the Elite Eight. Illinois, Iowa. That game was a nail-biter for a while. Actually started up trending towards the over, which was making me happy because I lost on this one. But then it just kind of went flat. Both teams couldn't hit. There's a lot of good defense there, but Illinois just showed that they're the better team. All around, Iowa sometimes just shoots a few too many threes. I mean, if you're going to hit them for 6 games in a row, I get it, but that's rare. They went 36% from 3. Illinois actually couldn't hit a 3 at all. They hit 3 for 17 at 17%, but Illinois better rebounding the ball, 32-18. And that's where they got the cleanup. The tall guys at Illinois there. And at the end of the game, they just, Wagler took over. So, got to give Illinois a lot of credit for making the Final Four. And once you saw Illinois versus Iowa in the Elite Eight, you're like, how many Big Ten teams could make it? Technically, three of them could have made it at that point. You could have had a Purdue, an Illinois, and a Michigan, but Purdue shit the bed, and Arizona clean house. And this was a nail biter for a while. As a matter of fact, Purdue was up by 6 to 8 points at the half. I wasn't too worried. I did another live bet on Arizona. I got like Arizona money line for minus 105, and after the first half, I'm like, seriously? Well, Arizona went a 16-3 scoring run and ended up winning 79-64, and that game wasn't even that close. Arizona was up by 20 points throughout a lot of the second half there. Arizona is the most complete team, like I've said. But Arizona suffered from 3 too, 5 for 15, 33%. Just really cleaned up the rebounds down there. Purdue's got that big dude Clough. He's a good baller, but he's just a little slow. He just doesn't quite have that. And I actually thought, even though this helped me out, the refs were a little bit more towards Arizona in that game. I felt like the refs were kind of screwing Purdue a little bit. Even though I was on the Arizona side, I benefited from that. So it just kind of felt like that when I was watching the game. I saw some bad calls. I saw calls just not going the same in both directions in the second half. Unfortunately, that's the reality you live into, because, the human element's always tough, right? Then you move on to Sunday, and Michigan just blows Tennessee out. I tried for a first half a live under at 149.5. And I had a parlay going Michigan and Duke. Thank God I hedged back on UConn for something. But that was the only thing that really hit because, as you know what happened, Michigan blows out Tennessee. The game's not even close. It's really not worth talking about because Michigan just couldn't be stopped. Tennessee was discombobulated, couldn't run with Michigan. Michigan's offense there with Dusty May is just fantastic. And Tennessee couldn't get the big rebounds that they did, against Iowa State. A little bit of a different situation, 38-37. But if Tennessee's not winning the rebound battle, they get beat because they just chuck it up and try to clean up. 19% from three, while Michigan went 37%. 51.8% from the floor for Michigan and 31.6% for Tennessee. Then finally the Duke game. Duke leading the way. I thought that they were leading the whole game. I'm not sure if UConn even led for a second in this game. Can't remember who made the first shots. Okay, UConn did go up 2-0, so they led for less than the first minute, and then Duke was up basically the whole game. Yes, the whole game until the very end. And, like I said, I think the best way to beat Duke is to start losing to them. Because that way, sadly, the human element and the officiating favored UConn a little bit at the end. I think UConn was in the bonus only 6-7 minutes into the second half. It's like, where were all these fouls in the first half when the big discrepancy was going one way? How about you just call it equal the whole game? But it ended up biting Duke in the ass because it allowed UConn to get back in this game. And then UConn shoots that amazing three after stealing it from Caden Boozer. And man, does that kid got to feel rough today. Trying to make that pass. They jump up high and just tip it enough to steal the ball. The worst thing you could have done. Holding on to the ball there would have been better. Eventually, you have to get over the half-court line. Call timeout. I don't know. Just making a risky pass ended up just getting you. It was just crazy game. It's weird because I feel like it should be St. John's there. I'm not a Johnny's fan or nothing. Maybe I had him in one bracket going to the Final Four. I had Duke in probably more. Duke outshot him free throws 22-17. Duke much better from three, 6 for 15, 5 for 23 for UConn. And Duke 52.1% from the field and only 43.8% from the field for UConn. But UConn got the turnovers. 13 turnovers for Duke, 4 for UConn. That's what it was. That's where the big difference was, especially the turnover at the end. St. John's misses the first free throw.
Hell no, to the no, no, no.
St. John's hits the second free throw. Duke inbounds the pass. Caden Boozer throws the ball, tries to get it to one of his open guys down court.
Hell no, to the no, no, no. Hell to the no.
UConn then gathers up the broken up pass.
Hell no, to the no, no, no.
They somehow get the ball to freshman Braylon Mullins, thinking it's time to be Mr. Freaking Clutch. Shoots a 3 from not just downtown, not from NBA downtown, beyond NBA downtown, not too far from the half-court line. Freaking sinks it. Goes up by 1 with 0.4 seconds left. And you know what happens with 0.4 seconds left. That's game. This ain't Christian Laettner anymore. 0.4 is less than what he had. That's game.
Hell no, to the no, no, no. Hell to the no, hell to the no, to the no, no, no. Hell no, no, to the no, no. Hell to the no, no, to the no, 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 no. Hell to the no, no, to the no, no, no.
I do not feel sorry for Duke. I can't. As a fan, I feel sad for my sports bets because the parlay would have been better. I had UConn plus 4.5 and the parlay. Michigan and Duke. But at the same time, watching the team that has literally been reffed into winning championships at the expense of other schools is frickin' priceless.
Hell no, to the no, no, no.
All right, moving on to the Final Four. Some early thoughts here. Unfortunately, the committee screwed up again because the top two teams is Michigan and Arizona, and they're not even playing in the championship game. Kind of the same thing happened with Wisconsin and Kentucky that one year. This happens more often than not. But the ACC was known to be weak. And putting Arizona and Michigan in the same side was absolutely stupid. Okay? Now we got to watch the Final Four with the best two teams instead of the championship game. It's pick 'em pretty much. Michigan and our friends at FanDuel is minus 115. That's what the odds are at FanDuel Sports. And Arizona is minus 104. I think if these teams played 1,000 times, Arizona would win 501 and Michigan would win 499. That's how close it is. I think Arizona's got the slightest of slight edges, but if they lose this game, it is a 49.9% chance, that they win or that Michigan wins and that Arizona loses. Flip them, Michigan, Arizona. This is literally the game of the games, and unfortunately, we're going to have to watch it in the Final Four instead of the championship game. But at the same time, why do you have the championship game on Monday? I always hated that. One thing I'm going to give you is the over in this. Because even though these two defenses are so dang good, and I hate taking overs in the Final Four, trust me, I'd rather take the under in the Final Four, especially the championship game. It's just the speed of these teams. Michigan ranks 22nd in tempo, 14th in average possession length. Arizona ranks 56th in tempo, 50th in average possession length. And if these teams weren't blowing out other teams, that'd be even faster. And I know their defenses are amazing. 2 for Arizona, 1 for Michigan, the top 2 defenses in the land. But I don't think it's going to be a defensive game. I think it's going to be a very offensive game. I think these teams are going to struggle to stop each other from scoring. I've seen Arizona enough allow easy layups. When we've seen Arizona play teams like Baylor got up to 80 against them. Kind of that same motion, quick offense, dribble drive. Iowa State scored 80 against them. Colorado scored 79 against them. Sure, they've stopped teams like Houston and Kansas, but those are more defensive-oriented teams. Believe it or not, Kansas was that this year. But now you're playing Michigan, and there's just so many ways I think that this goes over. Hell, if you do get overtime, you don't bet for overtime, but if you do get overtime, there's a chance this thing goes over. These teams love getting the ball out of their hands towards that hoop. And I think you're going to get a ton of that. So, from an efficiency standpoint on offense, from a speed standpoint, and from a tactical motion standpoint where they're not going to want to get in foul trouble early, I like the over in this game. I'm not going to take the first half. I think the full game over is worth the play. So let's do that for 2 stars.
Last week, fucked around and got a triple-double.
The Illinois-UConn game, I lean Illinois right now. I don't say rush into it unless you get a great number. Illinois on KenPom is 4 points better. And on the Bart Torvik, it's 3.5, I believe. 3.5. Illinois is 4th in the nation on KenPom from a standpoint of total efficiency, and the way they've been playing defense has been fantastic. UConn took Duke out. I feel like that's almost like their championship here. But Illinois just kind of matches up well against UConn. They're tall. Illinois can a little bit more like St. John's, but with a better offense, right, down there. I believe that guys like Wagler is going to get his, but this is really going to be in the paint. Boswell, Merkovich, the big guys down in the paint. Stojakovic, Boswell, I should have said. I should have said Ivashik, but it is going to be one down low from a rebounding standpoint. If Illinois does get hot from 3, they're not like the best 3-point shooting team, then this could be a blowout. UConn, not a great 3-point shooting team, ranking 144th. They really try to slow it down. So that's the angle that they're going to take and just try to muck it up like they did against Duke. But at the same time, this Illinois team is playing fantastic basketball right now. And I just think that they're 3 to 5 points better, personally, than UConn. Do not lay 2.5. 2.5 is a trap number. Teams foul up 3 a ton, and the game sometimes ends at 2.5, or 1 to 2 points, I should say. So the 2.5 just does not go through. So I would rather do money line than 2.5, but you're getting a lot of 2.5s right now in the marketplace. FanDuel's got 2.5, minus 142 on the money line. So that would be my recommendation, is look for a money line if you don't get a 2 or a 1.5. But you got to shop that around and see what you can get. So those are my early thoughts on the Final Four and the rest of the NCAA tournament. We're going to be back on Thursday with a guest talking some Final Four and actually a little NFL football as well. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you have any questions for us, feel free to tweet us at The Oddsbreakers. Email us at info@theoddsbreakers.com. Have a wonderful rest of your week and go get some winners.